What's up, everybody? So today we're going to be talking a little bit about macros, how to set your macros up, how it relates in terms of your total calorie intake to where you set it up if you want to gain weight, lose weight, or stay at maintenance. It's going to figure out your proteins, carbs, fats. We're going to dive deep into all that. Let's go ahead and get started, guys. Alright guys, so like I said, we're going to be talking about macros today. Before we get started on anything too deep, one thing that I want to address real quick is kind of what they are. So macros is what makes up your calories. Your calories is what determines your results, whether you're going to lose weight, gain weight, or stay at the weight that you're already at. Okay, so what are macros? Let's break it down. Macros can be described as protein, carbs, and fats. So each one of these items right here is going to be a source of fuel for the body. So each source is going to provide a different calorie content, meaning each one of them is going to have a different amount of calories per gram. So for instance, protein, you're going to have 4 calories per gram. Carbs is going to be the same thing actually. So you're looking at 4 calories per gram of carb as well. And then for fats, that's going to be the big dog here. You're looking at 9 calories per gram of fat. For protein, you're going to see a lot of meats. You're going to see it in beans. You're going to see it in different types of nuts. Obviously, there's going to be all kinds of different sources of protein, even protein shakes, things like that. But these are some of the more general. Your carbs, that's going to be your rice, your pastas, your breads, things of that sort. And then your fats can also be found in meats, can also be found in nuts, and your oils, all the butters, the oils that you use, those are all going to be considered fats. So now that we've heard just a little bit about each macronutrient, I do want to state that you can't necessarily say that one source is better than the other. The body does need all three. I want to make that really important because diets like keto, while yes they work and there is science to back it up, you do lose out on the carb source. So I know there's science to back it up and things like that, but just to be mindful that you do lose out on a very valuable source of energy for the body. To break down what each of these sources do, the protein is filled with different amino acids within each protein. So what that's going to do, it's going to help build up the muscle. When you break down the muscle when you're working out and you're going into that recovery phase, the protein and the amino acids within the protein is what's going to help build that muscle to make you stronger and have the muscle development. Carbs is going to be more of a quicker energy source. Like I said, it's your body's primary energy source. And then fats, that's going to be one of the body's more long-term energy sources. So say if you were to go on a long distance run or you're walking for long distances, fat's going to be the source that the body utilizes the most for things that are more long term. Now that we know a little bit about each macronutrient and pretty much the purpose of them, we can talk about how to set your intake for each of these into your diet plan. Okay, so in order to get started, we gotta throw out a few examples. For example, we're gonna use my buddy Bob here. Bob is 5'10", 180 pounds, about 20% body fat, fairly athletic, also a guy. So Bob here, he has some muscle, and he figured out that his maintenance level is 2,000 calories per day. That's for him to maintain weight. He doesn't gain weight, he doesn't lose weight. That's his maintenance. You would have to find your personal maintenance level to see how many calories you need to take in per day to stay at that weight. Once you find your calorie maintenance level, then you can go from there. I'll show you how to set it up once you get that. Now that you found your maintenance level, again, we're going to go with the example of 2,000 calories. Hopefully you guys can see this with my terrible writing. But now that you guys found your maintenance level, like I said, we're going to use 2,000. You can go ahead and determine what your goal is. Is your goal to cut down some weight? Is your goal to maintain? Or is your goal to bulk and put on a little bit more size? Once you figure out your goal, you can go from there. Let's say your goal was to cut. You would set your calories about 500 calories less than your maintenance. So if 2,000 calories is your maintenance, that means 1,500 would be your total calories for your intake. If you wanted to bulk, say we throw in 500 calories on top of the maintenance to get ourselves into a surplus phase. That way we're putting on some weight. The first thing you want to do is set up your protein intake. You want to make sure that your protein is like the first place you start with. If we start with a cut, we want to set up our protein at a solid amount. Pretty much we'll go for about 1 gram per pound of body weight. So if we bring back Bob, who is 180 pounds, we would be taking in 180 grams of protein. The 180 grams will equal out to 720 calories. That's going to play into the 1500 total. Second part you want to figure out is your fats. Say you want to take in about 25% of your total calories to be for fats because you want to save just a little bit more room for carbs, right? If that's the case, say you do 25%. These are all going to be rough estimates, by the way, guys. None of these are going to be concrete, completely on the dot numbers. These are going to be either rounded up or rounded down. So these are going to be like a rough estimate. Will be just about 42 grams of carbs and just about 380 calories. Now that we have our grams for the protein, we can tell our calorie intake for those two, and we just fill in the blank for our carbs. So if we know we have 1500, we subtract 720 and 380 from that, we get 400 calories left. Now we know that carbs equal to 4 calories per gram. So if we divide this by 4, we get 100 grams of carbs. That's set up for your cut. If you want to stay at maintenance, maintain your weight that you have a little bit more flexibility to choose how you want to set up your proteins. Like I said, protein is what we want to set up first. So we can set it up anywhere between about 170 to 180. That's about a good place to start off. And if you were to start off between that, you would end up with anywhere between 680 calories to 720 calories. That would be for protein. Moving on to fats, say you're taking in about 30%. That would equal to about 600 calories for a total of 67 grams of fat. Just like the cut, now that we have our calories for our fats and our protein, we just fill in the blank for our carbs. So that would leave us anywhere between 680 to 720 calories for carbs. Now that we have these numbers, we just divide each of these by 4, and we would get 170 to 180 grams of carbs. And that would take us to our 2000 calorie mark to be at maintenance. If we wanted to bulk, and like I said, we set ourselves at about 2500 calories, we have a little bit more flexibility with protein because we're in a maintenance phase. So say we wanted to go anywhere between 160 to 180 grams of protein. That would put us anywhere between 640 to 720 calories. Sticking with the 30% for fat, it will take us just about 83 grams to give us a total of 750. And just like all the others, we fill in the gap for the carbs. Once we get these numbers here, put them together, the difference would be 1030 calories up to 1110 calories. That's your range for your carbs to equal about 258 to 278 grams of carbs. Okay guys, so once again, this is pretty much what it looks like from my friend Bob here. So to recap, my friend Bob was 5'10", 180 pounds and 20% body fat. His maintenance level was at 2000 calories a day, as shown here and here. And then we broke down the numbers for a cut, maintenance, and bulk. This, guys, is really going to help set you up for your starting guide to macros. Once again, macros is what determines your calorie intake. There's many things that go into the diet and many things that you need to consider for a full, well-rounded diet plan. But to get you started, this is going to be really important to take down. Once you guys are able to figure out your specific macronutrient intake and how that relates to calories, it'll be a little bit easier to track your calories with your food, because all you got to do is make sure that the food you eat adds up to these numbers right here. And everything always has a nutrition label. If it doesn't, you could always Google it or use food tracking apps like MyFitnessPal. Those are going to be really good apps. That's a really good app that a lot of my clients use and even my family members use. So once again, to recap, a cut, say we're at 1500 calories, we have 180 grams of protein, 42 grams of fat, 100 grams of carbs. For maintenance level, we have an option between 170 to 180 grams of protein, 67 grams of fat, 170 to 180 grams of carbs. For a bulk, we have all the way up to 2,500 calories for a range of 160 to 180 grams of protein, 83 grams of fat, and 258 up to 278 grams of carbs. a little disclaimer, guys. This is not going to be the exact same for everyone. For a lot of people, it's going to vary. The percentage of fat, the amount of protein, the amount of carbs that you take in is going to be heavily dependent on you. What I would say is start off with the general setup, just like we have here, and then adjust to your needs, adjust to what works for you. Maybe you like a little bit more fat and a little bit less carbs. Maybe you like a lot more protein and you're okay with having less fat or less carbs, whatever it is. Adjust it to your personal lifestyle, to work for you, because ultimately these numbers do not mean anything if you're not able to stick to it with a diet plan that works for you. If you're not able to stick to it, what's the point? But this is pretty much the video, guys. If you guys have any other questions or video suggestions, leave them down in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for the next video, guys.